and I will be doing the invocation this evening. I put some calls into a couple of the pastors, and they were unable to make it. So, Heavenly Father, the City Council sits before you tasked with addressing issues as they arise within the entire community, as well as plan for an ever-changing city. These responsibilities are not accomplished within city government itself, but requires communication, compromise, and open and honest dialogue. After this somewhat tumultuous election, please grant us the grace to forgive when harsh words were spoken or written, to reach out to those seeming to come from anger and attempt to understand. Please show us the way to tackle issues of mistrust so that we may move forward. In your name we pray. Amen. Hey. Announcements.
I have an announcement. Last Thursday, the city was notified, and we're pleased to announce that the city received a $4 million grant for the new ferry terminal located at the Cabrillo Mole. And as you all know, a grant is a collaborative effort, so we'd like to just mention Metro had input, the Catalina Express staff had input. We had letters of support from Supervisor Kanabe, Congressman Lowenthal, Long Beach Transit, Southern California Association of Governments, the Catalina Island Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center, and of course, Audra. We couldn't have done it without Audra and all her time and effort and hard work and dedication.
Excellent. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Any written communications?
I have none.
Another announcement.
I have one more announcement.
Yes.
That's time. A reminder that the the Catalina Island Medical Center reminds you to attend the Community Health Fair on Thursday, April 28th in the Casino Ballroom from 9:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Get vision, blood pressure checked, learn how to do CPR, try acupuncture, get a massage, buy a disaster backpack, or some of the various options of the day. Participants can save hundreds of dollars on blood tests, which are $25 each, to check cholesterol, thyroid, prostate, and more. And it's the one time of year to get a free or discounted health services in one convenient location. Volunteers are still needed and contributions are gladly accepted. For more information, please call the Catalina Island Medical Center at 310-510-0700 and Community Health Fair, Thursday, April 28th, 9:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the Casino Ballroom.
Do you mind if I add just one little thing to that?
No, not at all.
We truly encourage the businesses to allow their employees time off to visit this fair. It can save them lots of money in the long run with the preventative care that is provided there. I know every year they find, there's a dermatologist, they find cancer, they find things like that need to be dealt with immediately. And I think that's of benefit to all if your employees are allowed to go. Thank you. Okay. City manager report.
I have none.
Okay. City attorney report.
Nothing tonight.
No. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Hope you had a great vacation.
Yes.
Okay. Council member reports. Who would like to start?
I just wanted to give a reminder out to maybe Dennis and his crew for the upcoming Memorial Day weekend next month. Make sure that I'm wondering if we could get some extra water up there and help with trying to green it up a little bit and fix it up a little bit for the ceremony, if we could possibly do that. Put it on our burner, please. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. We got the Catalina Classic Downhill Skateboard Tournament coming up. It's going to be, I think, Friday and Saturday and Sunday, May 6th, 7th, and 8th. I was talking to the promoter of the actual classic tournament that's coming up, and they're needing some volunteers. They need a little support from the community. They're working on a smaller budget, but as you guys know, that's a great it's a great event that comes to Avalon. It's been going on for years. Brings a really good crowd of people here. They're going to need volunteers to drive trucks, possibly do standing on the course, clearing the course off. They're going to need sponsors if somebody's interested in sponsoring. They're going to probably need food for the crew that they're bringing over. And if anybody wants to donate something,
if anybody wants to
donate something,
if anybody wants to
that is amazing.
Echo Lake. Is this Echo Lake?
Yeah.
Got some reverb going on. Should I start singing now? So they're going to need a lot of things. Walkie-talkies. If anybody's got 5 or 10 walkie-talkies, they can lend to the crew up there, because they're going to have emergency services. The city's going to donate some of our resources to the event, so it'd be a successful event. So we're reaching out to the community. They're going to need maybe housing as well. So if maybe Vacation Rentals or Hamilton Cove Real Estate, they might be interested, or somebody who has an open home that might be interested in helping out for that event, it would be really helpful. And you can call myself, Monica at the skate shop down at the skate park, or Justin Leonard, who is the actual Justin Reynolds, and his number. Justin Reynolds is actually the promoter of the whole event, and his number is 562-253-5813. That's 562-253-5813. I spoke to him today, and he said you guys can call him day or night, whatever it takes. If it's something to do with the skate tournament or something related to that, it would be really appreciated, because it's an awesome thing that we do every year. We don't want to see that thing go away. So let's try to support this this group of kids coming over. Matter of fact, some of the kids that come over, they're basically the best downhill skaters in the world. They come from Europe, they come from Australia, they come from the Netherlands, they come from Iceland, they come from the back east, Canada, South America. So this is a good group of people to be getting here. They're pretty much world-class athletes is who they are. So it's something good for the town. And if we could support it, make it happen, it would be really helpful. Let's see. As far as announcements, I just want to thank the staff for doing such a great job. The City of Avalon staff doing such a great job for everything you guys do. I know it seems like you're shorthanded a lot, but that's when people come out and they do their best work. We got the $4 million grant. We got all the projects coming along that we've been working on for the last couple of years. Things are beginning to fire now. All the things that we've been working on that everybody was, saying that we're not doing, well, they're coming together. So we're doing it, and thanks to the staff for that. Sheriff's, fire department, LA County, everybody involved, The town is running pretty good now. So Stage 2's coming up for water. I guess we got some Edison representatives here to do some announcements about that. And I'm glad you guys are engaging in the public, because everybody's really concerned about where we're going with the water. But as long as we can encourage people to keep at any level you can save water, I think we'll get through this. It's going to be tough for sure. It's not going to be fun. We're going to people are afraid, but let's take what we have, make it better. If everybody conserves, and when we get the visitors in on this, and just let them know that they're helping our entire community. If you're a hotel owner, a business owner, just let them know. Give them kudos. Give them a free soda. Give them whatever. If you guys can help us save water, that the community really appreciates it, and that's what's going to get us through this. Our attitude and our goodwill towards, just biting the bullet and getting through this. Take shorter showers. Don't run your water when you're shaving and brushing your teeth, so on and so forth. Anyway, that's it for announcements for me.
Thank you.
I have 2 quick ones.
Please.
The Gateway Cities Council of Government Board Meeting and Transportation Committee on 4/6 had a pretty major topic of discussion, and that was Metro's potential ballot measure expenditure plan and the strategic transportation plan final report. I had anticipated forwarding all the information on to staff by now, but I still have a few documents to turn over. But staff is now hopefully going to be involved in understanding of where that ballot measure may go. It definitely requires assistance from both Jordan and Audra. Some of the information is a little bit beyond my scope. And I did attend the League of California Cities Crisis Media Training, which was held on the 7th of April as well.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I attended the League of California Cities Revenue and Tax Committee in San Diego. The big agenda item there is revamping sales tax, because as services increase and opportunities to buy things outside of normal brick and mortar stores increase, sales tax revenue is kind of flat. And so they're trying to look at different ways. They want to make it revenue neutral for the first year, but they want to have it'll grow after that. And I'll pass some stuff out to you guys when I get it copied. I want to thank the fine city clerk for a fine election we had. The quick results. I heard that a couple times I stopped by the polling places and they were being smooth. And I want to thank all the people that voted for me. Thank you very much.
I want to thank the Recreation Department for the wonderful volunteer recognition program that was done on Saturday. We honored 8 individuals. 2 of them were couples, now in Lipe Hernandez and Bob and Carol Buddy, Arnie Gonzalez, I don't want to miss anybody, Arnie Gonzalez, Lolo, Sildania, Brian Dawes, and Paxton Offield, of course. It was very well attended. It was a very classy operation. David did a great job. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And we will be doing this on an annual basis, so that's very great. Oh, and on May 5th, I will be taking 2 senior volunteer honorees to a luncheon sponsored by Don Canabi. Zella LeSueur and Diane, God, I'm blank. Diane Stone were nominated, and I will be taking them to Los Angeles for a luncheon, along with, I think there's about 300 other honorees that will be in Los Angeles on that day. So I look forward to taking them. That's all I have.
Cool.
I will also be attending lunch with you on that day, but I'm going as a representative from the Workforce Development Board and Community Services for the county.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
Excellent.
it won't be a city representation.
Okay, excellent. All righty. With that being it, we have a presentation.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Adeline Young with Southern California Edison. First of all, I want to congratulate Madam Mayor and Council Members Hernandez and Olson on your successful re-election. I also want to acknowledge and thank each of the council members for your selfless dedication in serving the voters and this community. I have worked for an elected official, and I know the time and sacrifice it takes in serving the public. I'm also here to share with the council that Southern California Edison has ended discussions with Corex regarding the sale of its water and gas operations because of significant investments in a water system to address drought and non-drought related needs. Because of these expenditures, we don't believe we can move forward with the sale until we resolve with the California Public Utilities Commission how we are going to recover these costs. And now my colleague Jeff Lawrence will provide an update regarding Stage 2 water rationing.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council and staff. Jeff Lawrence, Senior Project Manager for Southern California Edison. I'd also like to echo Adeline's sentiments and congratulate all the returning council members.
Thank you.
For our Stage 2 water rationing update, as of Thursday, April 14th, Middle Ranch Reservoir is currently at 189 acre feet, and that is just slightly below what would traditionally be our trigger for Stage 3 water rationing, which is 200 acre feet. And in just a few minutes, I'll get to an update on our Stage 3 water rationing plan. In the month of March, we continue to see favorable results for our Stage 2 water rationing, where the mandate is 25% mandatory rationing. For the month of March, we saw almost a 35% reduction in water use. We've been trending right around 40 to 42% So we're still right in there with favorable results for our stage 2. This was while visitor counts were up over 32% over our baseline period. So we continue to see visitor counts go up, water use go down. So again, we want to commend the community on their conservation efforts. This was a reduction in the month of March of just under 9 acre feet. And again, that's over March 2013, our baseline period. On this slide here, this is our water conservation efforts for the last 12 months. As I said before, we're just under 43% water reduction for the last 12 months. If you look at the entire time frame that we've been in stage 2 water rationing, we've actually reduced water use by 246 acre feet. Almost a 10-month supply of water if you looked at the water sales numbers for 2014. In the last 12 months, while we reduced water use by 43%, that was during a time frame while visitor counts were up just over 27%. And in the last 12 months, we reduced water use by 164 acre feet. So very favorable results for the last 12 months and since August 2014 when we first implemented stage 2. And along with our water allotments and water use there, we also are out in the field enforcing our code enforcement. Since the last time I presented to you, we had 3 new water use violations, I should say. We continue to see water runoff from irrigation systems and the time of watering be the primary violations. I'd also like to reintroduce Bill Boyd, who as of last week is our new code enforcement inspector. He'll be out there taking care of the code enforcement violations for us.
Great.
You'll recall Bill was the first inspector that we had back in August 2014. Back to our water allotment violations. This is a chart of the billing cycles that have closed during the month, and of those customers, how many of them actually received their second violation, which would result in a flow restrictor being issued. That's the blue line that you're looking at. The red line is the number of customers that have received their second or more violation. So this gives you an indication of what percentage of our customers are what we'd call repeat offenders or a second-time offender. In the month of March, we had 1,858 billing periods that closed. 18 of those customers were issued a flow restrictor, and 101 of those customers had a second or more violation during that month. You can see a fairly positive trend for the last 6 or 7 months. The flow restrictor violations are hovering around 1 or 2%, and then the repeat offenders are hovering between 5 and 7%. One thing I should point out that I failed to in the last couple presentations, this chart does not report to you the number of customers that have received their first violation, which is just a warning. This is just to paint a picture of the flow restrictor violations and the repeat offenders. To date, we've had 571 flow restrictors that were issued. 445 of those are residential accounts, and 126 of those are commercial accounts. If you'll recall, back in November of last year, the CPUC approved some revisions to our Schedule 14.1, which is our water rationing and conservation tariff. And one of the revisions that they approved in that tariff was adopting increased violations for not only water allotments, but our code enforcement violations. The increase in our violations was in accordance with the governor's drought mandate. We did not adopt the amounts of the fines that were in the governor's order, but we did increase them for Catalina. And this is just a reminder of what those violations amounts, those fine amounts are that have been taken effect now as of April 2nd. So for a customer that exceeds their water allotment violation, the first violation will result in a written warning. The second violation will result in a flow restrictor. That's no change from the prior violation structure. The new change now that's taken effect on April 2nd is that the third violation will result in a monetary fine. And even though the community by and large has been very responsive to the Stage 2 water rationing, we have seen some repeat offenders. So the fine structure is to deter those repeat offenders and get them in compliance with their water allotment. So the third violation will result in a $50 fine, and that'll be assessed on their monthly customer bill, utility bill. And then on the third or more violation, the fine will increase by $50 over the previous amount that was fined. For customers, as of April 2nd, for fine purposes, they're essentially starting with a clean slate. So customers that are on their 8th, 9th, 10th violation don't have to worry about a very large fine. They're going to start at the warning level and then work their way up to $50 and then subsequent fines from there. For any customers that have what we consider a dual purpose meter, so if they have a fire sprinkler system on their main service, we're not going to install a flow restrictor on those customer accounts for public health and safety reasons. So it does result in an increased fine. So the first violation, it's a written warning. The second violation is a $250 fine. The third violation then resets at $100, and then from there it goes up in $100 increments above the prior fine amount.
Jeff, can I ask you a question on this?
Sure.
So does this mean, say, greater than 3 violations, each month would be $50, then $100, then $150, then $200, and it would just keep going? So effectively, you could continue to still use over the allotment of water.
Yes.
You just would be paying for it.
Right. And the fine will go up until it caps at $500 a month.
And then it would just be a $500 fine per
And then it'll
month.
repeat, yeah. So it could be a pretty significant fine for customers that continue to exceed their monthly allotment.
Can you explain what this dual-purpose water meter is? Because I'm looking. So you got a section of violations for the first water allotment violation fine structure, and then you have dual-purpose water meters that cannot have a flow restrictor installed. What is the difference? I mean, is there 2 types of water meters?
No, essentially those dual-purpose meter are customers that only have a single water meter, but they also have a fire sprinkler system connected to that main service.
Okay,
So we're not going to install a flow restrictor on that type of meter.
Are the fire sprinklers, are they those fresh water?
Yeah, most of them.
Some cases are.
Yeah, there's a couple of salt, but most of them.
Okay.
Are fresh.
Most of the fire suppression
system.
systems have a dedicated meter. So then installing a flow restrictor on a meter main in that scenario is not an impact to the sprinkler system. But that dual purpose meter that's why we have the increased fine, because they're not going to be subjected to that flow restrictor.
Okay. I see. Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, one more question. On those meters that you were just showing, does that show how many gallons a person uses a day? Is that so I can go out and read my meter and see how many gallons I used from the day before if I wrote it down? Is that what that's for?
That's correct. If you go to...
So there's not a different way to interpret this. This is basically showing how many gallons of water that I use, and do they all work the same way?
If you go to sce.com/Catalina, we have a user guide on how to read your water meter. And
Okay.
that meter in the picture there actually rounds to the nearest 100th gallon.
Yeah, you got to be an attorney to be able to read that. So,
Yeah.
or some kind of an interpretation, because I've already tried to do that.
You've tried to use the how to read your meter guide online?
So it's not just going out and reading how many gallons you used. There's a formula to it, correct?
You would just add 2 zeros to the number that you see on the meter there.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that gets you to we round to the nearest 100th essentially.
Oh.
So if you just add 2 zeros to that meter read, that indicates how many gallons of water you've used to the nearest 100th. You would just have to track what your meter read was a month earlier. So if you know the day that your billing period closes, you could track your water use on a monthly basis.
Does your water allotment vary based on how much you used the month before? Can a water allotment vary from month to month?
Well, it's based on that baseline period. So it's your water use from June 2012 to May 2013, unless a customer has applied for a variance and was approved for one.
Okay. If I use 551 gallons, you guys bill for 600, correct? Because you say you round off to the nearest 100.
Right, but we allow for rounding so that you're not unfairly penalized for that.
Oh, okay.
So that's factored into the water allotment violations.
That's why when you get your bill, it's usually 400, 500, 600, 700 gallons used?
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you're within 99 gallons or less of your water allotment for the month, you're not going to receive a violation because of that rounding.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. So as Adeline previously announced at the April 5th City Council meeting, we have a amended seawater permit for the desalination plant. And if you recall, our seawater permit allows us to now run seawater directly through the new GE reverse osmosis unit at a maximum production of 259,000 gallons per day. So this is really good news. As of tomorrow, we'll be sending drinking water through the system into the distribution system with the new GE.
Into the what?
I'm sorry?
You'll be sending drinking
We'll be
water?
sending drinking water into the distribution system through the GE unit starting tomorrow.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, significant progress is made there. And we continue to work with the Division of Drinking Water on our brine mode amended permit, and we're still tracking towards late June to have that permit issued to us, just in time for the summer season. So we saved the best for last here. So what does this all mean for Stage 3 water rationing? Southern California Edison is certainly concerned about the low level of Middle Ranch Reservoir, but due to the efforts of the community during Stage 2 in reducing water use by over 40%, the investment in a new water source of drinking water, the desalination plant number 2, and implementing the approved fine structure that I just shared with you on the previous slides, SC has decided not to increase rationing levels come this June. So we'll remain at the 25% rationing. And that's largely due to the community's efforts of actually exceeding the 25% rationing at a level of 40%. If our current Stage 2 performance was at 25%, we'd likely be activating Stage 3. So if we were just doing the bare minimum, we'd likely be propelled into further stages of rationing. So again, we want to commend the community for their efforts. It's helped not only stave off Stage 3 for the last year or so, 10 to 12 months, but it's going to continue to hopefully help us prevent increasing the level of rationing. In our current forecast, there are 8 to 12 days where demand may potentially increase what the desalination plant can produce. So at least for the customers that are connected to the desal distribution system, based on the lower demand numbers, the new plant can meet demand throughout the summer except for 8 to 12 days. And that's applying a 5% escalation over the 2015 water demand, because we expect the visitor counts to steadily increase. 2015 was I don't know if it was a historic year, but it was, from the data we have, a near high in visitor counts. So we applied a 5% escalation of that to forecast where our water use will come out compared to production levels for the desal plant. The need to implement Stage 3 will be assessed on a monthly basis moving forward, though, because we are very concerned about the reservoir level. We'll be reassessing on a monthly level to ensure we are preserving our groundwater resources to the best extent possible. Continued Stage 2 results, actual water use, and forecasted reservoir drawdown will increase the likelihood of Catalina remaining at Stage 2 rationing levels. We believe the monetary fines will also be an additional deterrent to help us either maintain or even exceed the current 42% water reduction that we're seeing, water use reduction that we're seeing. SCE is targeting to send out letters to the community by mid-May, communicating that their Stage 2 water allotments will be extended. And then we'll also be redistributing the collateral materials that you see on the banner. We'll be redistributing the table tent tops to the restaurants, and also the window clings to all the local businesses as well, to get the word out to the visitors coming to the island. Should we have to implement Stage 3 rationing, we'll announce it at our monthly Stage 2 update, and we'll be able to implement within a 2-month time frame, which will, and if we can do so, if we can give even more notice, we will. But it'd be a minimum of 2 months notice to get all the proper noticing done, and to make sure that we can respond if for some reason the reservoir is drawing down faster than our forecast has indicated. And just to share with you what our current forecast is, apologize that some of the print's a little small to read there. We have 3 forecasts on this slide. The red line is our 3-year historical averages for water use. The blue line is for 25% rationing. And then the purple line is what we've actually been realizing for most of the time we've been at Stage 2, which is 40% water rationing, a cut in water use. So if you project this out till the beginning of the next rainy season, And we continue with the 40% reduction in water use. This will put the reservoir at about 150 acre feet and then get us into the rainy season. So as long as we stay within those levels, we'll likely be able to continue at 25% rationing level. But we do need the community to continue at that 40% or above level for their water use. We do want to remind the community that water demand is not the only contributing factor to reservoir drawdown. There are environmental factors as well, like evaporation and the underground environment as well. And that concludes everything I'd like to share with you. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah.
I just have a couple questions. One, is there any way, rather than just a monthly update that you're giving us, can we get information more readily available? I'm not suggesting the public meeting, but if we could at least get information to city manager that we can post on the website and perhaps send out information via email, some public posts to let people know, hey, we're getting close to that time. Because sometimes we may go 3 weeks before we have an update, and that's about half the time that you're saying we could end up in stage 3. So if we got to a point where we knew we were just a couple weeks away, we may not have a council meeting to make a public announcement, but in that time, we could potentially really conserve if we had to, just to get us through until the visitor counts subside a bit.
Yeah, if a decision were made 2-3 weeks in advance of when I'm scheduled to be here, we'll make an announcement prior to that. But the rationale behind that is it does take a week to 10 days to get the prior month's water demand numbers in and reassess our forecast. So there's some number crunching that occurs, and then shortly before that second council meeting of the month is when we have our team get together and reassess the numbers. So within a few days of our decision is when we'll be at the city council meeting, likely with an update.
Okay.
But if for some reason we made a decision prior to the prior month's demand numbers coming out, if the reservoir was just dropping dramatically and we weren't going to wait for those month-end numbers to come out, we'll communicate it as soon as possible.
Okay. And another question, probably for BB&K, is we're still waiting for state legislators to finalize whatever rules and regulations they're finalizing for Proposition 1 funding, correct?
Correct.
Is there any pressure that we could put on them to move forward quicker, or is there any provision for the emergency situation for Catalina that we could receive any special consideration?
I can talk with Joe Burns, who's in the middle of drafting those regulations and is acutely aware of Avalon's situation, and get back to you next meeting. There's a lot of agencies other than Avalon putting pressure on, but we are unique in the sense that we don't have the ability to connect to another water system, whereas other agencies do. So we can look to see if we can get an exemption, or we're still looking for other funding mechanisms other than the proposition bonds. But I'll have a report at the next meeting on that.
Okay, great.
Questions from council or the community?
Yeah, good, John. Jim.
Go ahead, Jim.
No, I was just, in our last meeting, we were asking if it'd be nice to see if we can get Mr. Height here at one of these meetings. It's been a couple of years now since he's appeared. It's at least 3 years since I've been here. If we could manage it, nothing against you guys. I think you guys do a great job in reporting.
No offense taken.
But it would be nice to have him come up one time if we can, if he could work it out in the schedule. But I'd love to see him here once.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be happy to relay the message.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I understood you correctly, Jeff, you said there were 8 days of the year that you anticipated we would go beyond the capacity of the combined units. Are those date certain or predictive to date certain, like July 4th or July 3rd or something, where if shared with the community, we could really buckle down and not run our washing machines, not run our dishwashers on those days, things like that?
They're based on our daily pumping rates from Middle Ranch. They tend to be on your weekends, your Fridays, your Saturdays, your Sundays. I'd be reluctant to commit to that, though, because I don't know if events were planned on those weekends that aren't planned for 2016. I'd be reluctant to commit to that in our forecast. If demand was similar to last year, we would anticipate 8 to 12 days where we exceed production, but I wouldn't say it's specific enough to say this is a specific day where we think we're going to go over.
When we draw down from Middle Ranch Reservoir, doesn't that water go to Hamilton Cove?
Correct. So Hamilton Cove is not connected to our desal system. So
Okay.
you do have some customers that are drawn from Middle Ranch during the summer season.
Maybe we could specifically reach out to the Hamilton Cove Homeowners Association and visitors and just encourage them to help us out.
Yeah.
That would probably be something we could do as a council to draw down on that water usage. I mean, it's a pretty exclusive area out there, so maybe they're just used to using more water, and maybe we can encourage them by maybe giving them some kind of an incentive to not use so much water. Maybe at Avalon, give them a free ice cream or something. Well, things like that work. Yeah, free kayak or something. They only use less than so many gallons per person. So anyway, thank you for that information. Good question, Jim.
Absolutely. Anything else?
Thanks, Jeff.
We're good.
Good news.
And, I'm sorry, I was remiss. I didn't look out in the audience very clearly. Zella LaSure is here at the council meeting, and she is one of the seniors we will be recognizing on the Cinco de Mayo, on the 5th. So if you would just please stand so the people here could see who you are, and if they don't know you, they should shake her hand because she does a lot for the community. And maybe Barbara Curl will take your picture. Thank you. Okay, oral communications. This is an opportunity for the community to speak on an issue that is not on the agenda. You'll be limited to 3 minutes and no action will be taken.
David Hart, City of Avalon's Recreation Department. Congratulations to those who got re-elected. This Saturday, on April 19th, to commemorate National Volunteer Week, we revealed the 8 members who will be forever enshrined on the Avalon Kids Park dedication wall. These community members have given unselfishly to our youth of Avalon, either by their time given to, organizing of, or philanthropically supporting our youth programs. Joining Frank Saldana, Fern Whalen, and Robert Walkwell on the wall were 5 representing the longest youth sports program in Avalon, the Avalon Kids Baseball, a.k.a. Little League, and 3 who loved the island in all its youth that they raised and gave financially to allow multiple youth programs to come to fruition, continue, and thrive on this island. The community members we honored on Saturday were Lolo Saldana, founder of Little League, Joseph Lipe and Maui Hernandez, founder of Little League, and the one they called the Little League mom, Brian Dawes, Little League, Arnie Gonzalez, coach, otherwise known as the Glove Doctor, Bob and Carol Buddy, philanthropist, and Paxi Packey Ofield, philanthropist. We appreciate everyone who came to honor these worthy recipients. The City of Avalon will continue to place those who have given so much on the Avalon Kids Park dedication wall as a yearly celebration for National Volunteer Week. To continue that celebration, we've also decided that we're going to start honoring some of our local volunteers who volunteer in our youth programs, as well as any of the other programs that we do here at the city. And this year, our volunteers of the month are Frank Rojo and Paul Perea. Both have coached flag football, both coach basketball. They both come and help with our T-ball organizations. And so we are honoring them by putting them up on the community signboard up in Vaughan. So if you want to know who they are, their faces are up there and description of who they are and pictures of them and their family. So if you see them, please say thank you. Springfest is this Thursday from 5 to 9. Come enjoy each other's company, the food, the games, and dance the night away to Hot Off the Range. Also, along with the downhill skate, I'm glad that Joe is able to bring that up. If you do not remember who it is that you need to contact, you can also contact me here at City Hall. I can help provide any information that you need for this event, as well as get that and organize it with Justin as well. You can call me here at the City Hall, 310-510-0220, extension 231. And final update, the RFQ and RFP for Joe Machado Field has gone out this week, and we will be going through the pre-qualification portion in about another week and a half. All right. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Jim Lujan, Catalina Island Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. I'm going to give you just a couple of brief updates, most of it regarding the upcoming 4th of July celebrations that will be going on here on the island. As you may or may not know, the theme for this year's events are Sea to Shining Sea. You can write it better than you can say it. Sea to Shining Sea, a celebration of Catalina's maritime history. We'll make use again of the assets that were developed last year, like the logo that shows the casino in red, white, and blue. An invitation is out to a parade grand marshal. We can't yet quite announce that. We can announce and confirm that the Budweiser Clydesdales will in fact be here and be participating not only in community events leading up to the parade, but in our parade once again. The USC Marching Band will be back, joining us for both the parade and community concerts. We have a very special treat this year with the monks of, and I wrote this out phonetically, Drepung Lasaling, so I hope I said that correctly, who are going to be in town for about a week participating in various events related to the new museum's grand opening, but they're also going to participate in the parade. I'm personally, having watched some videos about them, hoping that they're going to chant and play their instruments as they make their way through the parade, but that's not confirmed. The community, of course, is invited to decorate their golf carts around that theme and to participate in the parade. The Yacht Club will once again be hosting their dinghy parade, and the Santa Catalina Island Company will be once again hosting their casino concert and food event. The Chamber has again contracted to bring a fireworks display, and the city has negotiated a very good rate on the barge, which is allowing for doing a few more events that you've already heard me say up the list. So we're looking forward to having a wonderful 4th of July celebration this year, and wanted you and the members of the community to know the work that's been going on behind the scenes to make that all happen.
Great.
Also wanted to tell you that May 1st through 7th will be National Travel and Tourism Week. You may recall about a year ago I came here and made a brief presentation and asked members of the community to come out in support of that if they worked in the hospitality industry. I'll be doing that again, even briefer. I promised the city manager I'd keep it really short and sweet. This is not my big September presentation. This is just a quick, short and sweet one. But I'll be here on May 3rd to do that once again. And anyone who's paying attention right now who works in hospitality is welcome to join us that night, and we'll ask them to stand and be honored for a moment by all of you. We will be hosting a luncheon the following day with Carolyn Batetta, who's the CEO of Visit California, the statewide tourism agency. It's a real privilege to have her come to our small destination. We competed against big ones like San Diego and Palm Springs and everything to get her here that week. She has a very full travel itinerary, and we got her. So we hope all of you will join us that day for the luncheon. It will be 11:30 on May 4th out at Catherine's Terrace. And she'll make a presentation on the state tourism marketing programs, which are all under the umbrella of Dream Big this year. You may have already seen some of the new commercials that are out that use that theme. We'll be doing one of our annual Serve Safe food handling classes in sort of a get ready for summer program that week. And in keeping with some of the efforts we did during the election of providing bilingual information to our community, we're trying to bring a bilingual instructor this time for the Serve Safe program, because our passage rate has always been higher for the English speakers than it has been for the Spanish speakers. We're going to be doing another customer service training. It's been about 8 years since we did one of those as a frontline training program. We're working once again with the Stimulus Group. They are a completely bilingual group who will be doing that, so we'll do probably alternating programs, Spanish and English, on how to provide the best customer service. It's sort of a get ready for summer program. And on some other points not related to national travel and tourism, our elections page over the course of the month and a half that was up with all of the candidate questions and answers had 1,317 unique visits this year versus only 806 in 2014. We attribute that a lot to the frequency that we had the ads and notifications on the board at Vaughn's and on our website, in our newsletters, and in the ads in the newspapers. So that's huge that many unique visitors, or not visitors the way I normally speak of them, but unique visitors to the website saw all of those candidate answers, and that's great. Just a few days away from now, we'll be launching our redesigned website. So the next time you go to CatalinaChamber.com, it may look remarkably different than it has looked for a long time. And the next event in our concert series is slated for this Saturday, April 24th, on Wrigley Stage. It will be Roadhouse Rock, and Roadhouse Rock ranges from country to contemporary rock, Johnny Cash, Leonard Skinner, Eagles, Zac Brown, Jimmy Buffett covers, and we hope everyone will come out and enjoy that. It should be a nice evening. It starts at 7 p.m. on Wrigley Stage. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks, Jim.
Jim, I'm sorry, could you give me the dates of the customer service training again, please?
That's being confirmed. We're working
Okay.
on it for that week, but I don't have dates certain yet.
And is that a training that's a full day or a couple hours, or you? Are you
We're going
not
to try
sure
and
yet?
do 2 half-day sessions
Oh,
to give
perfect.
people
Okay.
different work schedules, opportunities.
Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Jim. Other members of the public? Okay. We will go to the consent calendar.
We have 6 items on the consent calendar this evening, and due to lack of time, item number 1 is being pulled totally from the calendar. We are also going to be pulling item 6 for further discussion because of some comments from and calls today from the public, and so we'll just pull it right now so you can discuss it further. Item 6 is the temporary underwater.
Yes.
So the remaining items on consent calendar is expenditures. There are warrants, 2 payrolls, and 3 electronic fund transfers for a total amount of expenditure of $1,947,219.34. Number 3 is the resolution reciting the facts of the April 12, 2016 general municipal election. Recommended action is to adopt that resolution. Number 4 is emergency repairs for the Catherine Booster Station for 125 horsepower pump motor assembly. Dennis is in the audience if you have any questions on that. The recommended action is to determine that an emergency existed and ratify the action by the Public Works Director to undertake necessary repairs at the Catherine Saltwater Booster Station to repair the motor. 2 is to authorize the expenditures for these repairs to be funded by the Saltwater Infrastructure Fund in the amount not to exceed $7,000. And number 3 is to adopt a resolution authorizing these necessary repairs, and a 4/5 vote is required for that. Number 3 is the fiscal year 2015-16 third quarter treasurer's report. Recommended action is to adopt that resolution. And then skipping to number 7 is the adoption of the Injury and Illness Prevention Program, Policy P4. And recommended action is to adopt the resolution that implements the city's Injury and Illness Prevention Program policy.
What's the pleasure of the council? Mayor Pro Tem.
I would move staff on 2 to 5 and 7.
Okay.
I'll second.
2 to 5 and 7s. Any comments from the audience? Call for the vote. Excellent.
All ayes.
And item number 6.
Item 6. Is Al here? Yep. I have Al Ward in the audience. I also have the 2 applicants are here. So how about, Al, you come and give us a little summary first, and then we can direct questions to the applicants.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, I do want to point out that we have representatives of the Doug Aitken Workshop with us here this evening, who, along with the Museum of Contemporary Art Los Angeles, are co-sponsors for this project. I'd like to call upon them initially to provide you with an overview of the project and its details, a better understanding of the project. So, with no further ado, Doug?
Hello.
Hello, welcome to Avalon.
Yeah, thank you. And Denise, Yanni, everyone else, thanks for your time tonight. And I'd like to present the project Underwater Pavilions. And this is an artwork I'm presenting simultaneous with the Museum of Contemporary Art Los Angeles. The work is intended to be several temporary structures that will be under the ocean off Casino Point. They'll be available to be dived or snorkeled or swam into. I can show some images if you'd like. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so here we have these spaces. The spaces become marine habitats, temporary marine habitats, spaces for the viewer to experience. And I think more than anything, we're looking to make a project which really raises an awareness to the ocean and is able to focus on the marine landscape, to shift the focus of culture from museums and spaces like that to places like Catalina. And the project has been fascinating so far. Here we have a floating platform which creates a staging area for the work. There's a diagram of the structure. The viewer can swim through the space. The apertures are very wide. They're 8 feet. Here we see it tethered to the ocean floor. And I'll let Caroline speak about this in a minute in more detail. And here we are. Here's any of us. So this project, it's been very fascinating because when we think of art, we often think of paintings on walls. And with this project, we're really looking at creating something that's very unique and kind of moment in time and a destination. So the idea is to really stage this in Avalon. It will be here for about 4 months temporarily, and it will be a place that people come to. People come to on an international level. I've been contacted by Los Angeles Times last week that's very interested in writing, covering this work, the New York Times. And more than anything, we're really looking to create something which is open to the people. It's about sharing the amazing undersea landscape, and I think creating something which is generous. And it would be an honor to stage this in Catalina. We've been in close contact with the California Coastal Commission, which was kind of funny. I have to tell you off the record. Everyone said, "Oh, the Coastal Commission." It would be like going to the IRS, knocking on the door. When we contacted them and showed them the project, they spent a lot of time and a lot of diligence, and then called back and said, secretly, we love this project. We really want to see this happen. And that was amazing. And their standard is very high in terms of the ecological preservation, the lack of any kind of impact. So they've been assisting us in preparing all our paperwork to move through that. And what can I say? I have Dr. Bill Bushing here, who's probably some of you know, probably maybe everyone knows, who's been our consultant on the project and has done multiple dives in the exact site that we're looking at, and can speak to that and can speak to the marine landscape and the lack of impact of the work.
Great.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have done, well, initially I got involved in this because Packy's daughter, Kelsey Lee Offield, asked if I would. She's involved in the art world, as many of you probably know. Quite frankly, initially I was a little skeptical because I wasn't quite sure what this project entailed. But when I talked to Doug and Bunny and saw what they actually had planned, I thought it was a great idea. And they have people like Sylvia Earle, who is one of my heroines, I don't want to say heroine, in the marine world, who actually has a Catalina connection dating back to the 70s. She's very much in favor of this, as is her daughter and her daughter's husband. The concerns that I've heard expressed were initially with respect to the submarine topography and the vegetation down there. I produced a video that shows what the vegetation is in the area we're talking about anchoring these, and quite frankly, it's dismal. It is about as much of a desert as you can have underwater. in part, of course, because our kelp is pretty much gone. But there's also a pretty large infestation, even at the depths involved, of Sargassum horneri, which is an invasive Asian species that came into our waters 10 years ago. Some of the scientists at Scripps were astounded when I told them it was down at 100 feet and possibly beyond that. So the bottom topography there is basically sand with a little mixed cobble and gravel bottom. It's an infaunal type environment where the majority of the species that live in it are buried in the sand. Those types of invertebrates tend to be very resistant to any sort of sand dislocation or movement by currents, because sand is a very dynamic environment compared to a rocky reef. In terms of the site, I saw nothing down there that I felt would be disturbed, and I believe the Coastal Commission felt the same way when they viewed the video. It's just barren down there. Unfortunately, the whole dive park is in sad shape right now, and not due to our efforts, but due to this invasive species and the blob and the El Nino that have created the problem for our giant kelp. I heard there were some safety concerns. When you look at the drawing, the diagrams that were put up there by Doug, man, that's an 8-foot opening. I could go through there vertically, even with my belly. That is a pretty wide opening when you consider that there are already several items in the dive park which have vertical limits of 3.5 to 4 feet, and divers are going in there. So I consider this a wide open space, actually, compared to some of the things such as the Pisces, the glass bottom boat that is upside down in the dive park, such as what people usually refer to as a swim platform, which is actually an old dock structure that is in the dive park. The Sujack, the wreck of the Sujack down towards the harbor mouth, which has 2 swim-throughs, one for skinnier people than me, and one I can almost squeeze through. So there are a lot of natural features and man-made features in the park already that are in my mind, much more potentially dangerous, although I don't consider them to be serious dangers. I'd be open to any questions that council members wish to toss my way.
I have 2 quick ones.
Yes, Cindy.
I just want to make sure that I'm seeing this correctly. It's outside the MLPA, but inside the dive park lines.
Correct.
Okay.
I went out there, and the MPA is defined by a series of GPS points. I went out there and GPS the current boundaries of the dive park rope itself, and it is quite a difference. There's plenty of room in there to put these structures without impacting the MPA at all.
But they actually hang from this platform, is that correct? Or are they stationed
Actually,
from the floor?
They're anchored on the bottom.
So this depth is, so if they're anchored on the bottom, they're suspended somehow, because if you're talking about being able to swim through or snorkel through, I think that's my confusion. Are they hanging from the platform, or they're anchored on the bottom? Because you certainly aren't swimming through 70 feet.
They're anchored on the bottom and buoyant.
And buoyed.
Hi, I'm Bunny. I work for Doug. So there's a mooring system that we've designed for the 3 pavilions, which basically utilizes 7 large 2,500-pound moorings, which will be in a configuration 1 central mooring, which all 3 pavilions will have lines to, and then each of the pavilions will have 2 separate moorings independently. So then basically the mooring is on the ocean floor, which is placed there with the GPS coordinate lowered into place. A line goes to the pavilion, and then the pavilion is submerged about 15 feet under the surface, attached to that mooring line and floating independently.
How do they float?
They're completely buoyant structures, so they're made from composite, essentially, in the same way that a boat is.
How heavy are they when they're not in the water?
I do have a weight. I don't have it on me, but I can get you
Approximately
that
100 pounds? 50 pounds, 1,000 pounds?
No, I believe they're about 400 pounds.
Okay.
But I can get you that information.
Really? And they're buoyant?
Yes, they're completely buoyant.
Because of the material they're made out of?
Because of the materials, correct. And we have 2 consulting marine engineers.
And I'm seeing them, I'm looking at the page where it says maximum tension, buoyancy force, maximum drag force, water current, mooring system engineering. I'm just wondering how far from the surface are they down?
They'll be about 15 feet below the surface.
15 feet? Well, what about it? That's going to differ depending on what tide it is, what the tide is, right?
Correct, but we take it by the mean depth. That's what we go by, the mean.
So that would be high tide depth?
The marine engineer, I said it's the mean, so between the high and
Oh,
low.
between the high tide. Okay,
Correct, yeah.
medium. Okay. Okay, so they could potentially be more like 10 feet. Oh, so that's inside of the ropes of the dive park dock, right?
Correct.
Okay. I think it's kind of a cool idea. I want to hear more about it from the community, and then the emergency service providers in Avalon, Harbor Master, LA County lifeguards, who basically are the guys that rescue people when they're in trouble out there. So,
The Harbour Master is familiar with the proposal. I'm not sure if he's here tonight.
how do divers feel about it?
Well, Bill is an experienced diver and our consulting marine engineer who works for a company called...
Yeah, I know Dr. Bill really well. So,
but our other consulting marine engineer
Yes, sir.
is also was a commercial diver for many years and now designs submersibles, deep water research.
Oh, please talk into the mic. I'm sorry,
Well,
Benny.
I'm sorry. So
That's okay.
obviously, you know, Bill's an experienced diver and he can speak to what he thinks. But our second consulting marine engineer was a commercial diver for many years and now runs a company that creates submersibles and deep sea research vessels, as well as just thinking that it's kind of cool. They've both expressed that they believe the structures are safe for a well-trained diver due to the size of the openings, the fact that there are 3 openings per pavilion.
a well-trained diver, because we get some not so well-trained divers out there, and I'm also concerned about what the people who patronize the dive park would think about it. Just the everyday diver coming out, whether that's going to.
Sure, I can't speak to that. I don't know what Bill, you had thoughts.
And Doc would know that. So.
Well, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, Sylvia Earle is really interested in the project. And if you don't know Sylvia set the deep diving record at 1,500 feet. Sylvia is an amazing person. She used to be a board member of the Catalina Island School down at Troyan back in the 70s and has worked with Jean-Michel Cousteau for decades on programs. I've worked with her as well. I have tried to keep this quiet from the dive community, only mentioning it to a few people until we actually get some sort of read from the council. But the few people I have talked to all thought it sounded like a good idea. You know, it added something new that divers are going to come out and experience and enjoy. And, you know, we talk about well-trained divers. If an open water student has gone through what I consider the proper training, which would include peak performance buoyancy, they should be able to go through a hula hoop without bumping the hula hoop. So even an open water student, if they've received appropriate training, could go through this. It's a pretty easy opening. You can see through it. It's not like you're enclosed in a cave or any sort of a wreck or something like that. I don't do wrecks. I don't do caves, but I'd easily do this.
I'm concerned about its proximity to the surface, where in case there's emergency watercraft that needs to get in there for rescue. I just don't want it to be in the way of that, for one. And I know that can be adjusted because I'm looking at this right here. You could just pull in some of the slack, and it'd. And then I'm also kind of perplexed at how a 400-pound object is going to be buoyant.
Yeah, I'm close to that, and I'm buoyant.
And this also, this also shows that that is depending on the current. You got a 100-foot line at a 70-foot depth, which basically brings the trajectory of the line down this way, correct? Is that correct? So that the 100-foot turns into a 15 feet below sea level?
But keep in mind, there are multiple anchor points on each one of these pavilions. There's not just a single anchor point.
Yeah, I'm seeing
Which
that.
is what, that
I'm
is
seeing
sort of
there's a
the-
tripod of anchors.
Yeah.
Step up to the mic, please, Benny. Yes, sorry.
If you go to that image there, you can see M1 is the central mooring. All 3 pavilions are tied to that mooring, and then each pavilion has 2 independent mooring points.
So it holds it basically holds it at the same depth under the water, depending on what the current is?
Correct.
So regardless of surge, because we do get significant surge, so
I'm not a
this may be
marine
Bill.
engineer, so I'm not comfortable speaking to anything that technical, but I'm happy to provide you with more information from a marine engineer. But as far as I understand it, it's designed with all of the specific conditions in mind by 2 consulting marine engineers.
Keep in mind that it's also at depth, which is going to affect the way that incoming surge affects these structures. It's not like it's hitting the shallow water and shore. And as Joe, as for your comment about the access for emergency vessels, most of them enter from the far side, from the harbor mouth side.
Okay.
So there is a chance, of course, that one could enter from that end. But there are depressed areas on the lines, the boundary lines of the dive park that allow the harbor patrol boats and Baywatch to come into the park. So this would not be right by one of those.
Well, we got the harbor master here, and we got also the fire captain here. So I'm,
yeah.
I mean the fire chief here. Excuse me. So maybe, what's your thoughts about this, Brian? Just out of curiosity, I just want to get your take on this. I kind of like the idea personally, but I just want to let you guys know I got to run this through the ringer just to make sure it's the right thing to do if we do it.
When I was first contacted, I had concerns regarding liability with somebody swimming out to the float. May not be such a good swimmer if they weren't, a scuba diver. The float would be like an attraction, and if you get some kid out there that doesn't swim well, but he sees the float and wants to go on out, there's not a lifeguard on duty out there to watch over that. Liability with a confined space, with the pavilion, I heard from Bill that he can swim through it, so it sounds like it's a pretty big obstacle.
Brian, do you think that part of the, because I have some concerns with the liability insurance and whatnot as well, do you think that could be resolved by having the program cover the liability insurance, issuing an indemnification to the city, and possibly even a surety bond?
I think that's in the recommendations.
But a security bond?
Yeah. I think that's in your recommendations.
Yeah, it's one of the conditions, and we're going to run by. One of the things they have to do is they have to comply with the city's requirements. We're going to take this, if the council wants to go forward with this, we're bringing this to PARSAC, and PARSAC will set what the insurance requirements will be.
And that was my concern also. The liability issue, is it solely based on city? Or who's?
No, they have to indemnify and hold the city harmless from anything that happens with the event, not only or the project, including any approvals that the city makes. So it's not only it's the approvals, and then if someone is actually injured, but we're going to require them to have the insurance that PARSAC, as our carriers, is comfortable having.
And that was my only concern.
Another one of my concerns was it's anchored in open ocean, and the time that they told me that they wanted to be in there was October to January. Well,
no, August, October.
Changed to August. Okay. For August until.
I think our staff report says July through October. Now I'm confused.
My concern was we have wind and wave events anytime after mid-October until mid-April. So, if something like that came up and these broke free, is there somebody here to take care of the equipment that may break free?
Will there be somebody here to take care of it if your lines break and those things go drifting into our moorings? Just out of curiosity.
And then they covered?
We definitely, as part of the permitting process through the Coastal Commission, we have to provide a detailed breakage and contingency plan. We're still formulating exactly what that would be, but we were looking at including some kind of monitoring beacons that were attached to pavilions. Therefore, we would be alerted if there was a breakaway. They will have multiple points on them, and because they're buoyant, they should remain positive, be easy to spot, and they could be picked up by quite a small vessel and towed.
Who would pick them up?
We would have to
hire the dive service
like
or
vessel
something?
recovery or someone like that, someone that we paid to do that.
Maybe there's a few services in town that provide
Right.
ocean-going services like that. So
Yes.
you might be able to patronize them to be on call, but that's something that we definitely think about. Let me ask you. I was looking at the picture where you got your float, and then you got some divers on the float.
Mm-hmm.
How do the divers get on the float? Because I know stationary staircase. It's hard. I see divers trying to negotiate just the stairs out there. That you don't really expect divers with full gear on to climb up on the float, right? Up a ladder.
Mm-hmm. Maybe Bill can speak to how the float would be used. I think, obviously there's only one way to access the dive park, which is using that staircase and swimming out. We're not suggesting that anyone access it in any way. It may just be snorkelers or swimmers who use the platform. Perhaps a diver may want to get up on their float and use it as a resting point.
Yeah, that's just kind of an unrealistic thought, but it's just something that I gotta,
Does it need a float?
I'd leave that to Doug as the artist. It's his concept, so
It has a
I don't think it needs one. No, that would be my answer. But
yeah.
Yeah, to answer that, I mean, we saw the float as a kind of indicator of where the area is. So it becomes a way of allowing the viewer, the diver, the swimmer to kind of understand that this is the parcel of ocean which has the pavilions.
You might think about putting a ramp on that float. If you get to do this, like a ramp that goes down in the water so they can just kind of like get up there if a diver wants to get on the float, that is.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would appreciate it because I go in the dive park quite often. So
We'll look into it for sure.
whatever works. I mean, if there's a reason that we need to have the float there, like it's. Anyway, I'm pretty open-minded about this.
The nice thing, so from the platform, though, because of the visibility,
yes,
they will be able to see the art objects if they're only 15
Yes,
feet
correct.
under. So for somebody like me who's not a big diver, and
Yeah,
Bill,
yeah.
you can lead me around a little bit down there, but for me, it'd be okay that I can climb up there and I can look and I can enjoy the art from the top as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So being a temporary structure, one of the greatest aspects of this for me is in the dive community for years and years and years, there's always been talk about maybe someday we'll get a big wreck. And so I kind of feel like this is
It's kind of a double-edged sword, right?
yeah, helping us lead towards maybe someday
Right.
getting this big wreck that we hope we get. But
Okay, but this is not a wreck.
no, I know, but it really speaks to how the environment and whatnot. But realistically, though, I know that there has been some efforts in the past to do different floats and things, and there's been a lot of turmoil with the Coastal Commission in doing that. So I am very curious to know how this is going through the Coastal Commission, and I don't know how far into that process you've gone. Because I know in like as I mentioned in some of the projects that we've seen or the city's seen in the past, it's been excruciatingly painful and the environmental impacts and whatnot. So I'm just curious how that's going for you guys.
It seems to be going very well. The conversations that we had, the very first conversation had Fish and Wildlife on the phone, everyone, that Coastal Commission could pull in. They wanted to kind of vet it thoroughly and really understand the project. And since then they've been, I think they believe in it, and I think they're really, they want to see it happen. I think for them, they also kind of off the record, I think they see the value in creating something which brings an interest and awareness throughout the public to the oceans. And looks, creates something which is enticing and new, and brings attention to the condition of the West Coast Sea. So it's been, it's been.
And do you think that has anything to do with it being a temporary structure? That the environmental impacts, and I don't know what those are. I would like to hear what the environmental impacts would be, but are they minimized by the fact that it's a short-term program?
I think also the fact that this work is buoyant. So it's essentially, it's not like you mentioned a wreck. A wreck sits on the ocean floor traditionally. But, here you have something which is suspended. So, these will be at different elevations. So, as a diver, you have this opportunity to really have an experience and navigate these different pieces of architecture, And I think we've, been talking to a number of marine biologists also about using this as a crossover project which allows for the study of the ocean landscape and the monitoring of it. So that's been very provocative also in a great way, to see something which can cross over between culture, science, and a sense of ocean awareness. So.
Al, do you want to speak to this a little bit? Because I know you've been in touch, and I had the opportunity to meet with Bunny and Doug before. But
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
I particularly wanted to address this question regarding the permitting and where they are at with regard to the California Coastal Commission. The installation of these underwater sculptures does require the issuance of a coastal development permit. We would normally issue the coastal development permit. However, we're preempted by the California Coastal Commission in this instance because it's being proposed in offshore waters. However, the Coastal Commission has indicated that they will not move forward with the processing of the application or the completion of processing unless they receive documentation that the city has authorized the placement of the sculptures in our jurisdictional waters. And these are our jurisdictional waters. While we don't issue the coastal development permit, it's within our offshore city limits. I've spoken with the staff at the San Francisco office of the Coastal Commission. The Long Beach office is deferred to San Francisco. They have the oceanographers, the marine biologists, the marine engineers that we would depend upon to do the technical review and to issue the ultimate environmental document. They are the lead agency under CEQA for the issuance of the coastal development permit. They seem to be supportive of the project, particularly looking at the location of Sandy Bottom that, as they mentioned to me, is fairly devoid or is devoid of any significant marine vegetation. Hence, staff is recommending that you provide that authorization, but only subject to an agreement that the proponents are willing to enter into with the city to address environmental, safety, and liability considerations that are set forth in the staff report. These are minimum provisions that should be included in the agreement. The one point that was made, that I was surprised of this evening, that caught me a little bit off guard. We initially understood that it might be in place, but some time has already transpired, by maybe June. I was thinking June, July, August, maybe July, August, September. A personal concern, having been here, and as Brian, I think, touched upon it, this past October, late October and early November, we had the perfect storm in terms of an astronomical high tide, strong swells, wind-driven sea waves. We saw what it did in the vicinity of the seawall. That was in the protected area of Avalon Bay. This sits off of Casino Point, which is more open and exposed. Their engineers have indicated that this can withstand the maximum currents and swells that could be experienced at this location. I guess I'd preferably like to see a shorter time period than having us extend to that point, but they're now talking August to September, October to November. One other thing that the city attorney apprised me of this evening, point number 8 of the 9 points. He has asked that after Avalon Bay, that we add the following language, or any action taken by the city approving the project, including CEQA-based actions and determinations. But I think that these 9 provisions are at a minimum what needs to be included. As you saw from one of the illustrations, Doug, you could flip back a couple slides earlier in the presentation. Can we still do it? Oh, okay. Let me do it. I go this way. Where do I put it? Down here? Yeah. We've got a fairly limited level of tolerance here in terms of citing it. It's got to be precise. They've indicated they will use GPS, and the Coastal Commission has assured me they understand our concerns. We don't want, and we can't allow, any of these structures to be placed within the marine protected area or to drift into the marine protected area. Likewise, we don't want any of these structures to be placed in or to drift in the surface vessel travel lanes between the anchorages in Descanso Bay and the moorings in Avalon Bay. That's not going to be tolerated, and that's one of the conditions or one of the provisions that should be incorporated into the agreement. They seem to have fairly well pinpointed where it should be located, and I think that with GPS they can document that. I've seen the underwater survey video that shows the location. I think I don't know if the Coastal Commission has seen that, but that was their understanding as well. Anyway, that's what I would have to add. I hope that that's helpful.
I personally love the project, and I believe that with the proper 1 through 9s and everything going on, this is art. This is very exciting, and this is something that it will be collapsible, and they will be able to take around the world, which is very exciting. This isn't a one-shot deal, and this is I can't imagine what the expense of this is going to be. I don't even know who's paying for it. I don't know if we asked that question, but this is an opportunity.
I'm not trying to.
I know I'm not saying you are. I'm just throwing my 2 cents in.
My role is not to be an advocate for this project, but
I
to
know.
look out for the city's best interest.
I appreciate
But as you
that.
just stated, Madam Mayor, it's rather precedent setting. I mean, the city has done a lot of innovative things to be proud of. This is something that will really draw attention, particularly on the part, I think, of the dive community, although certain members of the dive community might be concerned about it. Hopefully their concerns can be allayed. But this is the world premiere of an exhibit that could travel around the country, maybe around the world. But it would put the city on the map in a special way.
Sure, thank you. And I do believe when they talk about the change in the dates, I think when somebody's an artist and you have this conceptual idea and you go, man, this is really bitchin', and then you go, oh my God, all the red tape to get something done. So probably their plan was to have it done, in a different time frame, but just because of all of the organizations and governmental agencies that need to get involved, that might have slowed it down a little bit. But so I don't know. You can all talk about do they want it to run to November? But I don't know if there's a point where it wouldn't be worth the project if it was only in the water for a month. So I think Bill and the harbor master and the artist, I lost your name all of a sudden, could work that out. I'm hoping.
All I can do is voice the concern and the liability issue of having it out there during a storm season. It would be up to you to tell us when you want it there.
Not during storm season. And we get some pretty good currents. But I think your committee should be pretty insightful as to what the different variables are going to be, especially if you're working with the government agencies that Al had just explained to us that we need to accommodate what their demands are, and that's for the public's best interest, and then the liability for the community as well. And then there's a lot for you guys to do. I mean, it seems to be some support up here for this project. There's just a lot to it. We just got to make sure everybody's safe, and the assets that the city has out there are going to be free from any liability of, boats. There's going to be boats out there, moorings, divers, swimmers, people everywhere. So we can't have something. I guess what we're all getting at is we can't have something go wrong.
I just want to add that in my discussions with the San Francisco office staff of the Coastal Commission, I particularly brought home this point and the concern about conditions and the situation we experienced late last October, early last November. They appreciated that. I wish that there was some data where we could quantify what we experienced and then relate that to the design of the project. I don't know if there's NOAA data or from another entity that would document what that surge was, what those swells were. But I brought it to their attention. They appreciated that. I made them aware of it, and they said that we will particularly take that into consideration, whatever that may mean.
Okay, thank you.
Initially, the dates in the staff report show the installation of the exhibit shall be completed by July 1st, and the removal of the exhibit shall be completed by October 1st. So when we're talking about the approval or moving forward with a 9 points at that moment, I just want to see if we could defer the dates that are going to be agreed upon to the harbor master and allow him to work with the group to figure out what the dates and safety concerns would be.
Chief Krug, do you have any sentiments about this, sir?
You've already touched on most of the public safety concerns. I just had one more thing to add. Because it is enclosed at the top, it does meet the definition for penetration diving, which is that it doesn't provide for any vertical ascent to the safety of breathable air at the surface. So it does by definition meet certain parameters that make it a hazardous environment.
You can get trapped in there.
Correct. And like a lot of things you already touched on, because of the proximity to the surface, there's also the consideration of snorkelers and free divers that have access to that.
Okay, so someone can go down there, they could panic, and they could get stuck in there. Worst case scenario. And how about also we got to consider if there is a problem that city officials and our staff sees in the program when it's out there, some deleterious effect that it's going to have, and we say we got to get it out of here. We got to get it out of here. I think that's something we need to discuss too. We all want to see it happen, but if there's a problem that arises, let's say we get a big surge, like the surge we got a few years back. I mean, even last year we had a couple of midsummer southeast swells coming up from Mexico, and they brought in some pretty nasty surge into the harbor and along the coastline. So that's just reality for us. That's all. Doug, that's just why we're firing through all these things, because there's, it's the deep blue sea. I mean, Dr. Bill will let us know, but if you got this guy on your committee, I think that's one step towards a successful introduction to this program into the world. It's pretty neat. I love art.
David Art, Recreation. I noticed in one of the pictures, the inside, is it all mirrored in there? So how is the light refraction in there going to affect vision as well as awareness for divers?
Step up to the mic, Doug.
I think the reflectivity of the work is really, that for me is at the core of it. We're really looking to create a kind of encounter where, the swimmer, the diver, comes up to this and sees almost kaleidoscopic vision of the ocean, from the sun penetrating the ocean surface to the marine floor, and kind of mapping into this almost like a crystal, floating crystal. So I don't know if that helps explain or what the question was.
So it's not really mirrored?
I get that. When I first saw it, I thought that was probably the coolest part about the whole project. But when a diver goes into this enclosed space, even though there is open space, is there any sort of, when he goes in, it's almost like he's in a white light, and now he doesn't know which way is up, down, away. So what does it do for the awareness?
The openings are 8 feet.
Up to the...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Doug.
Sorry, I'm not used to the microphone. The openings, each one has 3 openings, which are 8 feet. So it's not like a cave. It's not like you're in some kind of grotto. It's really like an open space where fish are moving through it, swimmers are moving through it. So I don't think you're going to have the perceptual encounter where you're blinded by light and disoriented. I think you'll actually be very stable. So. Thank you.
Can you see through through this structure? I mean, can you see out of it? Like, they're like glass panes?
You can see through it through the openings.
Through the openings,
Yeah.
but you can't see through the actual spheres.
And one side of the structure is going to be a kind of aggregate that we're creating, which is a textured surface. And the idea is that this will create a kind of underwater colony, that sea creatures will be attracted to it and will want to nest or be around it. So, the idea is that, when Dr. Bushing was talking about this area as being bleak and kind of empty and desolate, we're actually looking to enhance the sea life through this project and to create something which is denser and richer. So, yeah.
Okay. It's a good discussion.
Well, I don't know that did we add anything to the list?
I've looked at the list. No, I think you've discussed everything with the added language that I suggested earlier. I will note that condition number 5 are the dates. The dates are a 3-month maximum, and so what I would suggest is that if the council is in favor of this, that there be 2 actions. One is to send a letter to the Coastal Commission indicating that you're in favor of this project. And the second would be to direct my office to prepare a final agreement which contains these conditions, and the date will be determined of the display after consultation with the harbor master and the fire chief on a date that is appropriate for the activities that are going on there. Again, a maximum 3-month time.
And let me ask a question, Doug. What's the build time for this?
The build time is we have to start next week. Okay. Yeah. So to be very, very precise.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we agree to do the letter to the Coastal Commission, you feel comfortable that you can go home and start building?
If we start next week, we'll have it ready to be installed, and that would be the last week of August. Right. Yeah, mid-August.
Okay.
Mid-August. Yeah, and we're really aiming for that because we want to have the water warm, and we want to have a moment where there's, people can swim in bathing suits, not necessarily wetsuits.
Right.
And then let it progress into the fall seasons where it's more, serious divers and people who are, looking at different encounters. I think that this project can draw a very interesting audience to Catalina. I think it can bring a kind of cultural dialogue along with people who are deeply invested in marine preservation. And we see this as a way to kind of activate the community, the commerce, to work with people on the island to really create a community around this project and to kind of make a connectivity in a way which I think would be very unique. I would just reference one other project which I did a few years ago where we staged a train that went from the East Coast to the West Coast, and over approximately 30 days, every place the train stopped, we staged different events, and it was amazing. Musicians, artists, everything from, I think you mentioned Jackson Browne on your playlist. Jackson Browne was on this train, to Patti Smith. And it just created this energy moving across America. And I think, with this project, this installation in Avalon will synchronize with this very large exhibition at the Museum of Contemporary Art. And that's an exhibition that people will be flying in from to see internationally. And, we think that it's a magical opportunity to, kind of take that audience and, let them know about Catalina, let them know about the sea environment, and really, kind of open things up for a larger dialogue for everyone. So that's what I'm hoping will happen. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, on that, then I would like to make a motion that we write a letter to Coastal Commission in support of the project and direct the city attorney to develop the final agreement with Doug Aitken.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion?
I'd like to ask one more thing. What about you got night divers out there? Are you thinking of doing anything at night in these spheres? Is there? I mean, like maybe light them up or something? Is there been any discussion about that?
Yes, there has, and I'm really glad you mentioned that. So going back to Dr. Bill was talking about Sylvia Earle, and that was one of Sylvia's contributions to the project. She said that she would really recommend each pavilion has a light that's inside it at nighttime. And she loved the idea that you could have this situation where different ecosystems would happen in the evening, so night divers, could have something that was unique to that experience. So yeah, we're hoping to happen.
That's great then.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then let's call for the vote.
All ayes.
Thank you very much, Doug and Bunny, and good luck on your project. And Dr. Bill, thank you. So you can Dr. Bill, you can guide me through that, right? I'll put on a tank if you'll take me through.
Mayor, could I just ask, I didn't want to muddy the waters during that conversation, but Scott, remember the Eagle Scout project that had happened with the map, the gentleman that made the map for the dive park, which was really great. The sort of boundaries of the dive park have changed, and so I'm curious, does the city have any liability with that map being there with potentially incorrect depths? So for example, if you're using that map as a dive map and you're seeing that it says that you're only going to 70 feet when in fact it's 120 feet.
I can't think of a theory of liability that would be based upon a map provided by another person because the condition of the property remains the same. City's only liable if there's a dangerous condition of public property.
Okay.
Because it's a dive park and it's a natural area, there's really not a dangerous condition there. And if there's a map, I don't think it makes the map dangerous. I don't think it makes a dangerous condition.
I really appreciate the map and like that it's there. I just want to make sure that it isn't considered the city's map of what the park actually entails. Okay. Yes. Yeah, sure. Please. I'm just curious.
Yeah, one of the issues when the park boundaries were extended that concerned me was the potential liability to the city. And what I did was I made a little statement that I put on top of that map that says, warning, the indicated boundary depths may not be accurate. So please use caution or something like
Great.
that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Ultimately, it is the diver's responsibility to know their depth. So I do get that. I just was worried about the map making sure it wasn't a city-initiated map.
Yeah, I worried about it too, but I think hopefully.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to, this is going to be I thought this was
quick ending?
a quick night. Okay, item number 7.
We already did number 7. That was in consent. So now we have general business.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yep.
There.
General business item number 8 is the seating of the newly elected officials. First, this is normally where I would be giving a proclamation to the outgoing members, but since you're all being reseated, I won't need to do that part. And I need to apologize to Christy Lins for omitting your name on the agenda, and I do apologize. So if the mayor gives me permission, I would like to swear in the city treasurer first.
I think that's appropriate.
All right.
election. You have the final filing.
Okay.
I don't know if we spent more time.
That's fine. Well, no.
Candy.
Oh my gosh.
It's a truck up there.
Oh, what's in all that? Sure. What do you, what part?
Do you have these in your 8, 9, and 10, 11? Do you
No,
have?
there's nothing in there.
No, oh no.
Foreign and domestic.
Foreign and domestic.
And that I will bear true faith and
And
allegiance.
I will bear true faith and allegiance
To the Constitution of the United States.
to the Constitution of the United
And
States.
the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And that I take this obligation freely.
And I take this obligation freely
Without any mental reservation.
without any mental
Or
reservations
purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
And that I will faithfully discharge.
And I will faithfully discharge
The duties upon which I'm about to
the
enter.
duties I am about to enter.
Welcome back, Richard. So on the second, sign your name and put City Council.
No. Where's my wedding vows? I need a telephone right there. Where do we want in New York?
There you go, perfect. Ole Olson.
Good job.
Okay, Ole, raise your right hand. You know the drill. So I
I, Ole Olson,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of California,
the Constitution of the State of California,
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States,
to the Constitution of the United
and
States
the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and that I take this obligation freely
and that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservations
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Other line item. And City Council.
Thank you. Mayor Marshall. Okay, you know the drill. Raise your right hand. I
Ann Marshall,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
and
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and
to
allegiance
the Constitution of the United States,
to the Constitution of the United
and the
States
Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California.
I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of
and
evasion,
that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Welcome back in.
Thank you.
Second line. And then Mayor.
Okay, item number 9.
Okay, this is appointing of the Mayor Pro Tem, and I'm calling for nominations.
I would like to nominate Mayor Pro Tem Ole Olson. I think
I
he's done a
second.
fine job.
I second
I'll
that.
second. I'll third it for it.
Okay. So we shall call for the vote.
Okay. All ayes.
I should ask the audience, right? And number 10, the audit committee.
Number 10 is the audit committee. We did have Councilmember Hernandez and Councilmember Cassidy were the other audit committee, and now you guys need to appoint. Could be the same ones or new ones.
I like them.
It means you don't want to do it? I move.
I think they're doing a great job.
Tough
I
job.
nominate Cindy and Richard.
I second that.
Any comments from the audience? Okay, call for the vote.
Bob didn't stand up, so.
All
Now's your chance,
ayes.
Bob.
Okay. And the Avalon Municipal Hospital Board of Trustees. Is there anybody, Ole has been doing that, is there anybody who wants to get involved and jump into that?
I think Ole does a great job.
Okay, well, hearing none, is there a,
I will make a motion to appoint Ole as the chair of the Board of Trustees and the council as the remaining members of the Board of Trustees.
second? Call for the vote.
All ayes.
Business cards.
Oh, yeah. Is there any other action?
Hospital board.
Oh, yes.
But let's adjourn the council meeting.
Yes. Okay, the Avalon City Council meeting is adjourned.
I will now call to order the Avalon Municipal Hospital Board of Trustees meeting of Tuesday, April 19th. Call the roll, please, ma'am.
Trustee Cassidy.
Here.
Trustee Hernandez.
Here.
Trustee Marshall.
Here.
Trustee Sampson.
Here.
And Chairman Olson.
Here. Announcements, written communication. Is there any?
She's doing two jobs.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see her behind the screen.
What was that? I'm sorry. No announcements. No.
No written communication. No presentations. Oral communication. Board of Trustees will not accept comments from the public at this time. No action will be taken on non-agenda items at this meeting. Speakers should limit their comments to 3 minutes each. And they're flocking to the podium here. They're just running up here. Okay, not seeing anybody doing that. Consent calendar, ma'am.
We have 2 items on the consent calendar. It is the Board of Trustees actions from February 16th, 2016, and then the Chief Executive Officer's Board report and the Chief Financial Officer's report, and those are from February, March, I'm sorry, I blew that, and January and February. Recommended action is to receive and file reports.
Comments from the board?
No, sir.
Comments from the public? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve consent calendar.
I second.
Call for the question.
All ayes.
General business, there's none. I have nothing to report. Do members have anything to report?
I have none.
I just wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
Because they're monthly meetings, and you go to these monthly meetings. You don't go to... Oh.
On the board.
But you could go if you wanted. Well, anybody could go if they wanted to sit in. Oh, okay. Well, I would like to say, especially since Jason Pare is kind of new, I don't know that we talked about perhaps having...
He's coming next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. That's nice that he's coming.
I should say, Judy Hibbs had contacted me, either Jason or Judy were attending for a reason, for a purpose. They're doing a little presentation.
Oh, sweet. And I just would like to comment that I'm really excited that they're moving ahead on the telemedicine for the VA, for the veterans. That's going to save them time and money going over town. So that was a really good thing to read. Anyway.
The telemedicine is also available for us civilians, too.
Well, yes.
UCSD.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay. We'll adjourn. We're adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Great.
Good night, Tony.
Hospital board.
Hi, Tony.
Okay, we're done. Good night, Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Put on the agenda.
All right.
Good to say good night.
All right, good.